My next guest was the first to talk about ESG on our program, and we've been hearing more and more of it as of late. So please welcome back to the show, Rebecca Walser. You woke everybody up, all the viewers on my show, to this ESG movement. We've got somebody in the White House that champions it by the name of Brian Deese. Where do you stand on it? Is it getting out of control? Is it out of the barn and they can't put them back in? I mean, I'm getting kind of nervous here, and I'm actually getting mad.
Yeah, Scott, and unfortunately, I have an inside view into what's going on in Europe because they're going well beyond ESG. But ESG is the beginning. It will morph into CSR, which is corporate social responsibility, which is how they're really going to leverage all of the green movement. So what we have here is we have, a movement of green, and we all can agree with green. But the problem is that instead of developing green technologies that are competitive and can stay at par with fossil fuels, we don't have them. So instead of making that happen and using the science to make that happen, we're just going to get a bunch of politicians elected that will make it happen by fiat and by basically making regulations around it. And that's what's happening right now with all of these farmers protesting, and starting to really become an issue because, just like you said, that is the second largest breadbasket of the world as exporter. And they are estimating that almost 30% of their farms could be shut down by these regulations. These are family businesses that have been around hundreds and hundreds of years, centuries. And now you have politicians coming out and saying your cows are not able to, release methane gas as they were before. And either we have to do something with the gut of these cows, or we're going to stop farming, and we're going to stop all these things, and we're going to put in all of these systems. And this is just the tip of it, Scott. This is just the scratch of the surface. They are already in Europe through their accounting regulations. They have IFR, International Accounting Standards in Europe. We use GAAP, Generally Accepted Accounting Principles in America, right. But they're using their accounting standards to start forcing companies to start writing and putting down their ESG and their costs for carbon. So it is really, really just beginning.
I mean, so then is so I'm so happy that the farmers are pushing back here. I mean, getting rid of 1/3 of your food base doesn't seem like a good idea to me. I mean, they've already got empty shelves as it is. What do they think that they're doing with cutting off their nose to try to spite their face? I'm glad to see what the Dutch farmers are doing. Is anybody else in Europe pushing back against this, or is it just quietly going through?
Well, unfortunately, it has quietly gone through for many, many years, to the extent that, again, these are not scientists. These are politicians that are listening to NGOs and lobbyist groups that are wanting, the green lobbyist group that are wanting certain kinds of, methane and levels maintained. And they're going to start saying, okay, well, now you have to offset your carbon costs. And if you're not offsetting your carbon costs, you're going to have to start paying for it. And that, of course, is going to go to some bureaucracy that isn't going to actually do anything about the actual gas capture in the environment. And so, no, Scott, this is just the beginning. It's just now getting to the point where it's starting to affect the food supply chain. And now people are starting to wake up and realize, wow, we signed onto this green energy policy, not realizing that meant we wouldn't be able to maybe fly or drive or eat.
Well, I mean, it's such a stark reality that this picture that you're painting, because, look, a lot of the viewers of this show are in the agricultural world, and this will affect them massively, obviously, right? Number one. And number two is, I just read some new research this morning. This is what happens when you have not scientists, but politicians make up the rules. They did a test drive on an electric pickup truck here in the States, pulling a boat, and it only went 85 miles before it needed a full new charge. I mean, who's in charge of the operations of these ideas that they think are so good, right? So once again, we get to this point, Rebecca, where they think that they need to transform something when they really need to make it better, right? You don't need to tear America down and reinvent it in your Green New Deal. And ESG, by the way, for everybody out there, is what was it? Environment, social, and governance, right? So that's basically corporate wokeism. Is that fair to say?
It is. Like I said, it's morphing to CSR. Absolutely.
And
yes.
CSR, that's the first I've heard of it. So tell us what that is again, so we can know what that is.
Yeah, CSR 4.0, it's really being spurred out by Europe and the World Economic Forum and these kinds of things, but it's the use of accounting mechanisms and other regulations at the regulatory level to push carbon capture, carbon taxation, and all of these things. And one thing I will say, Scott, and I'm not proposing that this is truth, but I am saying that there are people in this world, scientists, mathematicians, that speculate that a lot of these groups only want a certain amount of total global population, and it was really the industrialized farming that grew our population to the almost 8 billion that it is today. A lot of these people think that the earth really can only handle 4 billion or less, and so don't be surprised if they are promulgating things that will not sustain a population at this size, because they also don't believe that the earth can sustain a population at this size.
Right, and not to get too political here, but it just kind of sounds like, Disney supporting abortion so they get rid of all their customers, right? So that's another one of those things that we have to deal with today. Really, you know what, so CSR, one more time, what does that stand for again? Because I'm going to
Corporate social responsibility, and we're on the 4th iteration, so it's CSR 4.0 is the new thing.
Wow! I can't believe I missed the first 3. Right? It's like a movie. I really appreciate that. Thanks for coming on the show, Rebecca. That's great stuff. You've enlightened me, and I know you're enlightening our viewers, because this is right down the alley for what these folks are worried about. All right, when looking at